The UK faces a March deadline to exit the EU, with or without a Brexit deal. Prime Minister Theresa May's plan got a green light from the EU last month, but she's yet to get it through the deeply divided British Parliament, and she's ruled out a second referendum. As the risk of a no-deal Brexit is rising, the EU has launched a contingency plan. It covers trade, transport, and financial services.
In today's package, we have adopted 14 measures in a limited number of areas, to which, in a case of no-deal scenario, would create major disruptions for our citizens and businesses, and where preparedness measures on their own would not be sufficient. So this is an exercise in limiting damage.
The EU's plan is a reprieve, but it's temporary and conditional. For 12 months, it would allow British trucks to carry goods into the bloc and UK-based financial operators to continue to access EU markets. And more than 1 million British citizens living in Europe could keep resident rights as long as the UK offers equivalent measures. The British government has announced its own plan to soften a hard Brexit. It'll allocate $2.5 billion to different departments to help prepare for the UK's departure. It held talks with shipping firms to keep trade flowing and will set aside space on ferries to ensure a flow of medical supplies. And more troops will be on standby for any potential unrest.
What we will do is have 3,500 service personnel held at readiness, including regulars and reserves, in order to support any government department on any contingencies they may need.
The UK will also provide advice online to help businesses get ready for a hard Brexit. But for them, that may not be enough. Britain's economy has slowed since the Brexit referendum in 2016, and the government says growth next year will be the slowest since the country was last in recession in 2009. The British Parliament is supposed to vote on May's Brexit deal in January. Until then, she said she would seek assurances from the EU over elements of her plan she believes are necessary to win the support of lawmakers.
We will set out what is achieved in our EU discussions when we return in the new year, when we have had those discussions, when we bring those assurances back.
May now has a few more weeks to persuade Parliament to support her. Until then, people can only guess on what terms the UK will leave the EU. Laila Humairah, TRT World.
Let's get more on this now from Geraint Johnes, who's in the UK. He's an economics professor at Lancaster University. He's been closely following Brexit for us. Welcome back to the program. So, for so long, Theresa May and the European Union were quite confident that a deal would be reached and approved by both sides. They're clearly not so confident now. Do you think a no-deal scenario is the likely outcome now?
Hello, Oscar. No, I don't. The threat of having no deal is something that quite clearly is being imposed by the UK government in order to try and persuade some of its backbenchers to comply with the wishes of that government and to vote in favour of Mrs May's deal when it comes to Parliament in January. What we know about no deal is that it is by far the worst of the possible outcomes. The government's own calculations suggest that as a result of no deal, looking 15 years out, UK GDP would be almost 10% lower than it would otherwise be. And that is a huge economic cost. No responsible government would want to impose that kind of cost on its citizenry. And so we're facing a situation where really the no deal preparations are being made in order to persuade the more extreme Brexit supporting MPs to rally behind Mrs May's deal when the vote comes in January.
Yes, and that vote, as we know, was delayed and is now scheduled for the week of the 14th of January. Do you think that these tactics will persuade those hardcore Brexiteers to back the deal?
It's unclear whether it will or not. Looking at the options that face Parliament, clearly no deal is one, although it's a very unappealing option. No Brexit is another. Mrs May's deal is another. Norway Plus is one that keeps being spoken about. So there's a whole range of options that at this stage Parliament isn't able to discuss properly. because Mrs May's deal is to be discussed and debated and voted on by Parliament. Unless and until that is voted down by Parliament, discussion of the other options is not taking place. But to look further at the issue of no deal, the European Court of Justice ruled that the UK could unilaterally rescind Article 50 and stay within the European Union. So the only way, that being the case, the only way that no deal could happen would be either by accident or by sabotage. And hopefully, at least, the government would not wish to end up in that place.
Okay, we've got just under a month left until that vote happens. We'll see what takes place in that time. Geraint Johnes in the UK, thank you as always.